I am going to install this module right here. It's a little circuit board, and what this will allow me to do, it will allow me to raise and lower my convertible top without having to get in the car. I can use the key fob. Just by pushing a couple buttons on the key fob, I'll be able to raise and lower the top. The kit is very complete. It comes with these really cool wire connectors and some zip ties and double-sided tape and Velcro and everything you need to get it done. The procedure is basically to open up the driver's side door panel. That's where this module is going to mount inside the door. And then you got to jack the car up and take the wheel off and take out the fender well liner and fish a wire up through there into the engine compartment to the engine bay, to the fuse box. But it's not that difficult. I've done all those things before. So it is, let's see, it is 15 after 4 on a Sunday afternoon, and let's see how long this is going to take. The first step here, let me get this stuff out of the way. First step here is to disconnect the battery. You got to make sure your windows are rolled up, and then you disconnect the battery. Battery's right down here, and I'm just going to disconnect the positive terminal on my battery. I had to go get my tools, which took about 45 seconds, but this still shouldn't take too long. So just loosen up that. It's a 10mm nut. Just loosen up that and tuck it back down under here where it's not going to touch anything else. And then we can go up to the door and start working on that. All right, to open up the door, you'll need some kind of tool kind of like this. They make plastic ones that you can get at Harbor Freight Tools for dirt cheap, like $5 for a set of them. But that's to pry this door panel off. But before we can pry the door panel off, we have to remove some screws here. Back here in the door handle, there's a little plastic piece, and if you stick a fine blade screwdriver back in there, you can pry the plastic piece out. There it is. Just set it off to the side. And then there's a screw back there, Phillips. Take that screw out. And once that's out, you can pull this thing off and set it to the side. And I put everything down here in the floorboard of my driver's side because it's easy to find there. I'm not going to lose it. There's also, you can take out this rubber thing out of the little pocket there. And down in here, there's a screw right there out of the Phillips. And then right up here, there's a little padded piece that's underneath the switches. And if you stick something up under there, you can pry that piece out. And it's just held on by a little clip. And then that leaves one other screw right down there. And actually, my little piece of plastic is broken, so I don't have to take out the screw. But the screw is holding in this little wooden piece here that holds the switches. On my car, I can just pry that out. It's held in place by friction on my car. And then once that's out, you can disconnect this by pressing on that little piece right there, and then it unplugs. And then I think that's all the screws. Oh no, we got to take this off. Little speaker. There's a little connector on it. This one can be kind of tough sometimes. All right. And I believe that's all of the screws. So now I can take this thing and just wedge it down in here. Actually, I'm probably not even going to need it. I've had this thing on and off so many times. It comes off pretty easily nowadays. And just by sticking your fingers back in there, you can pop those little plastic pieces out. There's probably, oh, you know what? There's a screw I forgot. I always forget this screw. Down here behind the switches, there's one screw right there. It's another Phillips. Cut it out. And now this thing should just pop right off, which it did. Once you have the door card out, right here there's a the light. You need to disconnect that. So there's a little clip here. You pry off the clip, pull off the light, the cable, and then I like to slide the clip back onto this this little piece here, that way I don't lose it. And then you can set your door card off to the side. Alright, now you can see this has fallen off. This is just held on there. Even on the real car, it's just held on by some tape. I've retaped it a couple times because I've had this open several times to adjust my window and stuff. But once you have that off, it'll peel right back, and you can get access to all this stuff down here. You know, in fact, I don't even know if, for this job, I don't know if I need to peel that off. I'm just going to leave it on there, because the next thing to do here is to take the speaker off, and for that I'm going to need some sockets. All right, I've loosened these bolts up. There's 4 bolts that hold the speaker in place, and they take an 8mm socket. And I just noticed as I'm taking the speaker off, there's also this metal bracket here. That's the bracket that holds the door lock switches and the window switches. Actually, there's no door lock switches. But now I've got the speaker off, and being careful not to touch the cone because it's kind of fragile. On the back of the speaker here, there is a clip that holds the wires in, so I can just pull those right off, hopefully, easily. There we go, that comes off. Now just set it to the side. So now that I got that out, this thing right here comes off. I'll set it over there. And then there's 2 little clips here that hold a wire harness on the back side. One of my clips is broken, don't know why that is, but the wire harness is being held in place by the one clip there. So I need to squeeze that together with some pliers and push it through. So now with my needle nose pliers here, I'm just going to squeeze this clip and push it back through the hole there. And it's probably going to be harder than I'm thinking. Now I got it. There we go. So now the wire harness is pushed back through. I need to go read the directions to see what my next step is. Right, the next step here is to move these three nuts. These 3 nuts hold in the driver's door module, which is right behind this black rubbery piece right there. The driver's door module is the electronics that controls all the raising and lowering of the windows and things like that. And I'm sorry if you hear that lawnmower in the background. My neighbor chose the time that I'm making this video as the time to mow his lawn. So if you can hear that, I apologize. Oh, can't lose that. Alright, so now that I've got it loose, I can push that through and then pull the driver's door module down and out through this little hole. And I don't need to disconnect it. There's some connectors on here, but according to the instructions, they don't need to be disconnected. I just need to maneuver this thing down until I can get it through the hole. Maybe I don't even need to get it through the hole. Maybe I just need to get it to the hole. There's something blocking me. I'm not sure what it is. All right, let me figure that out. Yeah, what was blocking me was just that little nut or the little screw right there. It was kind of catching on the edge, but by pushing it away, I was able to get past that. And so now I've got complete access to the driver's door module. All right, the next step here, I took the black plastic covering off that covered the inner door panel here. I had to do that to get access to this. You could just, the instructions say just to peel back the corner, but I took the whole thing out because it's easier for me. I've had it off so many times. So this right here, there's a wire in here that I need to get to, at least one, maybe more. And it's wrapped up with electrical tape. And so I am very carefully going to take a razor and cut this electrical tape. I don't want to cut too deep because I don't want to skin any of the wires that are in there. But I want to peel back this this electrical tape so that I can get to the yellow and green wire. So now I've got that peeled back. I'll find my wire and then I'll attach one of these Positap connectors to it. Just gotta find the right one. Alright, so now to put on these Positap connectors, you just they said use a red-gray one. That's the right size for this wire. Oh, by the way, this wire was kind of hard to identify because the green stripe is hidden underneath there. It's a yellow with a green stripe. And I kept looking, it looked like solid yellow. I couldn't find the green stripe, but eventually by twisting the wire around, I was able to get to it. But you put this thing over the wire, and then the Positap connector has a little pin in it, and when I screw this back down, that pin will puncture the insulation of the wire, and then I'll be able to add another wire here on the outside when it comes time to do that. Back to the directions. Okay, so now that I've got the Positap connected to the yellow-green wire, the wires that come out of the module that I'm installing, they're all color-coded to match the wires on the car, which makes it really easy to do this. So what I need to do here is I took off a little cap on the Positap connector, and then I slide the cap over top of the wire, and then I slide the wire down in there to the side of the connector, and then when I slide that back down and screw it down, it'll clamp onto the wire and make contact inside there. Yeah, and it's holding really nicely now. So I got that one wire done, about 8 left to go. Right after I've got the connector on there, I can just take this to the side. I don't want to zip tie everything together here because I don't want that thing pulling. I don't want the weight of the wire pulling on the Positap connector. So I'll probably use more zip ties than came with this thing, but first I'm going to zip tie the Positap in place. And I'm going to use another zip tie down here on the wire. You know, I might have done this wrong. What if I was supposed to feed that up through there? Because it's going to go back under there. Okay, I read the directions and I figured out that this wire is actually, the module is going to be mounted on the inside of the door card, between the door card and the metal door frame here. So this wire doesn't need to go up underneath there. So I was just kind of confused by that for a second, but hey, that's why I'm making the video, so that I can show other people how this thing is done. So I'm just putting another zip tie on there to hold that wire in place good and tight. And clip off the end of the zip tie. And then next, let me read about this and figure it out. Alright, the next thing here is to take the module. It comes with a really long wire harness, and there's 2 wires in that long wire harness. So what I want to do is take them and feed them down through here where the module sits, and out through the speaker opening, because these are actually going to get fed up into the engine bay after a while. So I'm going to pull all that as I can through there, and let me see where these go now. I'll figure that out. But this needs to be pulled all the way through. This is going to be fed up through here and through a coupling here that goes up into the engine bay. All right, next here on the the black connector of the door module, I want to take one of these solid red Positap connectors. It's the really small one, and I unscrew the end. That's the other end. Oh no, it's not. This is the right end. So I'm gonna on here there's a brown and green wire that is kind of hard to see, but if you're not colorblind and you got halfway good eyes, nope, that's brown and blue. Oh, there it is, brown and green right there. So grab the brown and green. It's right in the middle on the back side of the door module. So slide this over it, and then turn it around, and then screw that down. Okay, after getting the two Positap connectors hooked to the two wires there, you're going to the brown and green and the orange and yellow wires, and you're using the little small red Positap connectors. After you've got them on the wires on the terminal block, then you just take your brown and green and your orange yellow and you screw them in there and make the connection. So I've got those wires done now. And I kind of figured this out, what was going on. This module is going to mount on the front of the door here, so this harness is going to go back in there, and so that's why we're feeding this wire down there through the little slot right there. That was a little bit confusing to me at first, but I got it figured out now. And then this long one is still going to feed through the door up into the engine bay. So now down here on the blue connector, I want to tap into this heavy brown wire, and there is a heavy black wire. And I'm going to use the really big blue Positap connectors for that. And here on the blue connector, there's one more wire I want to tap into. It's this yellow wire. You got to be careful though, because there's two yellow wires. There's one here on the side that says door module. It's not on the flat side. It's on the side that has the bend in it. So on the back side of this one, actually as I'm looking at it, it's the front side. There's a yellow wire right there. It's it's the third pin from the end. There's another yellow wire over on the other side. You don't want to use that one on the corner. You want to use this one that's the third pin over from the right side. So I'm just going to add a Positap on it, and then I will be able to splice in my wires from the module. So now I've got 3 wires that I need to attach to these Positap connectors. The brown goes to the brown, the black goes to the black, and the yellow goes to the yellow. So once I'm done with that, I guess wiring this thing up is essentially done, other than what I'm going to do up in the hood. Alright, next, it's kind of hard to see because there's not the best lighting here, but this is the hinge of the driver's door. Right here, there is, right above the actual hinge, there's a connector, and by turning it counterclockwise, you can unscrew the connector until it pops off of there. And so now I've got the connector disconnected. I'm going to pull that out. Actually, which way should I go here? I'll pull it down like this because I need to be able to poke a hole in it. I'm going to poke a hole in this rubber sleeve here so that I can get the wire through. But the connector is disconnected, and then I'm going to poke the hole. I'll come back in a second. Okay, what the directions say I'm going to do is take, they say you can use a sharpened nail. I've got this awl. And I'm going to poke a hole in this rubber boot. And I can't hold the camera and do the hole poking and everything all at once. So I'm going to poke the hole and then come back. But the rubber boot, it actually comes off of the inner part of the door there. You can, I've pulled it, it slides on and kind of latches in place. But I've pulled it off to give myself easier access. But on the back side of it here, where it's not going to be visible once the wire is installed, I want to poke a hole right there, and then I'm going to take this needle and feed the wire from inside the door and up through there, and I'll show you what it looks like when I get done. I'm not done yet, but I've got the wire, the part of the wire bundle that has the 2 wires in it. I've got it fed through the door, and then the kit comes with this needle that I put the wire through the eye of the needle, and I've got a hole poked in the rubber sleeve right there. And so now I'm going to go back in from the other side of this and push the needle up through that hole that I've poked so that I can pull this wire through. So now you can see the end of the needle sticking out there. Here's a little tip. Your nail or your awl, whatever you use to poke through from this side, just leave it in place and use it to kind of guide the needle as to where the hole is. And then, because I was trying to poke the hole and pull the awl out and then try to find the hole with this plastic needle, but it wasn't working very well. So now that I've got the hole poked through and the needle through that hole, I can just pull it right through, and now I can pull all this wire through so that I can feed it up into the engine bay. I went ahead and got the module back out of the way. I've got it tucked back in there. I got the wires zip tied so they're pretty secure. Main thing is you want to keep them away from this right here. This is the window rail. I don't know what you call it, but it's what guides the window up and down. So there's going to be movement inside there, and you want to make sure those wires are away from this area. So I've got the wires secured. I put the module back in place here. I think I might have jumped ahead a little bit in the instructions, but it's still going to work. Now what I need to do is take this long wire right here, this one that I fed through, where I poked a little hole through, and I'm going to feed it up through the fender, up through that way into the wheel well arch. And to do that, I've got to take off I got to lift up the front end, take off the left front wheel, and feed the wire up into the engine bay. It's not as hard as it sounds. Okay, the wheel well liner is really easy to remove. First thing you got to do is take off the wheel. I love power tools. Once the wheel is off, you've got a couple of, it's hard to see in this light. Let me get a flashlight. This might help. Up here, there's a couple little, how do you even call them? They're not screws, they're like clips. And that tool I used earlier is very handy because what it is, it's a little rivet, and you slide, you can do this with just a single screwdriver. All I'm doing is sliding this thing because it grabs it really well. And when it comes out, it's just a little rivet. When that pin goes in, it holds it in place. And this thing is really good for just sliding up in there and opening it up. There's two of those. One is right there and one is right here. So once you get those out, there's also a little Torx bit right here on the corner. And I'm not sure what size it is. It's like a T25 or a T30, but it's just a little Torx bit. And then there's these plastic nuts. There's 3 of them. There's one here, and one there, and one here. They're not hard to, they're easy to see. To get those, actually, I can just do it with my fingers because I put them on and take them off all the time. But I think it's a 10mm socket. It might be a 9 or an 8, but I think it's a 10. And they're just little plastic nuts. And then there's also 2 screw rivets. There's one right here and one right here. And right now my 2 screw rivets are missing because the last time I took this wheel well liner out, I tore them up. So I need to get those replaced. But once you take those 2 screw rivets out, they're real easy to remove. You just, all you got to do, I don't know if you can see where I was pointing, there's one up here and there's one over here. The screw rivets, it's just a screw. You unscrew the screw and then you can pull it out, and it's similar to those other rivets I just showed you. But once all those things are out, all you got to do is, this thing is very flexible, and you just start prying on it, popping up all these little things. And it just comes right out. And when we're all done, putting it back in is just the opposite of taking it out. It's kind of hard to see, but right there in the light, right in the center of the frame there, that's that connector that I unscrewed in the hinge. And the wire is pushed up right there. I'm trying to do this all with one hand here. So the wire, the little cable that had 2 wires in it, it got pushed up and pushed forward into that fender well. And then I can come around here, and here we are in the fender well, and right back there, let me see, right back there is where the wire came from. You can see the wire right there in the middle. Coming around the corner from that black piece of rubber. So now what I'm doing, I'm just going to take this wire and tie it to some wire bundles in here to keep it secure and feed it into the engine bay. Okay, sorry this is so dark, but I think the picture actually looks better this way. Here's the wire, and what I'm going to do is take it and zip tie it along up here across the front, the top of the wheel well arch. There's actually a little rubber hose here. I'm not sure what that is, but there's a rubber hose here, which is where it's going to get zip tied. And the rubber hose is actually held in place with some little clips. So I'm going to feed the cable that I'm doing here right through those clips. And it's going to come around here to the front side of the wheel well. And then, see, here's the wheel well. And then it's going to feed up through right here. You can see some light coming through back there. That's up into the engine compartment. So I'm going to feed it up and around through here up into the engine compartment. Okay, doing it with light this time so you can see. Back there is the wire. Right in the middle of the screen is the wire as it comes through. I've got it zip tied to a hose right there. And then it comes up. I'm actually going to zip tie it to that little screw that sticks out. And then it's clipped into that little clip right there that holds the hose. It's clipped into that clip, and it's clipped into that clip right there. And then it makes this bend here. You can see it making the bend and going up into the engine compartment. And then up here in the engine compartment, haven't figured out exactly how I'm going to route it yet, but it's going to, hang on a second. Haven't figured out how I'm going to route it, but somehow it's got to get over here to this fuse box, and I'll figure that out here in just a second. Alright, sorry this is so dark, but I can't really get any more light on it. What we're looking at here is the engine bay. This is a fuse box. That's the shock mount pillar, whatever it's called right there. There's the engine just to orient you here. Right here, this little rubber grommet, lift it up and there's a nut on there. I'm going to take that nut off. That's my 12 volt power coming straight from the battery. I'm going to disconnect that. And I do not want to lose this nut. Of course I got the battery disconnected. I'm going to set the nut right here. And I'm going to disconnect that cable and just push it off to the side. And then on the front of the fuse box here, there's a little rectangular thing, I don't know what you call it, but it's a latch. And if you grab that right there and pull up on it, it took a lot of effort the first time I did it. This time you can hear it popping right up. This little latch that allows the fuse box to come unhinged. And then I can slide the fuse box this way and then lift it up. Now I can get to the underside of the fuse box. And I'm going to take this two wire harness. I'm going to feed it down here. Let me fold it over. I just want to get it so it's coming up on the bottom side of the fuse box here, because this is where the wires are going to go. And I will zip tie that down to these brake lines or something here in a few minutes. But you know, I might have to I don't want to cut this off really, but I might have some extra cable here, so I'm going to just twist it up and roll it up and zip tie it to a brake line or something. But now I'm going to make a connection. I'm going to make two connections here on the back side of this fuse box. Alright, I moved the camera over to the other side in hopes of getting a little bit better lighting. What I'm going to do here, I turned the fuse box over. It was, let me see, it was this way. Actually, now I got it twisted. It was this way. I just turned it around because I want to be able to get to this blue connector right here. Now this blue connector, there is a red and white wire, and I see it right there. So I'm going to take that red and white wire, and I'm going to take one of these gray and red Positap connectors, and I'm going to tap into that red and white wire. And then the other wire I want is a attach red Positap, connect the white red wire. Okay, locate the red green on the black connector. So that's right here, and I'm looking for the red, or the red green would be, I think it's this one right there. It's only red I see. Doesn't look like red green though. All right. Locate the red green on the black door fuse module connector. Red, green. Let me find the red, green. Okay, I found my connectors, and so now all I got to do is take the wires from the harness and take the red, white one and put it on the red, white wire on this blue connector, and take the red, green one and put it on the red, green wire on the black connector. You might not want to watch all this, but I'll show you anyway. Fast forward if you want. This will just take me a few seconds. A little tug to make sure it's good and secure. Do the same with this one. Alright, so now I've got those on there good and secure. So I need to pull some of this wire back because I need to coil it up someplace so that I don't want to have to cut it off. So let me put all this back, turn that around, slide that in place, latch it, put that back on, put the nut on. In case you're wondering what time it is, I'm almost done. It is 6 o'clock straight up. Alright, I forgot what time I started. Alright, so all that's secure. I will coil this wire up here and zip tie it to some little, there's a little wire harness there. I'll zip tie that wire harness. And I guess we're almost ready to test it. Okay, I'm essentially done. I haven't put the module actually in the door yet. There's the door panel laying on the seat and the module is sitting right there. But I've got the top up and here's my remote. I'm going to lower the top with the remote. So it's the bottom left button and the unlock button. And there it goes. Windows are coming down. You see the lights on the module. And there goes the top. Ignore all the junk in the background. I have a messy garage. There's the top. It's closed. The lights stay on for another few seconds, but that's going to go off in just a second. Alright, so that was lowering the top. And then to raise the top, let the light go out here. To raise the top, it's you need to make sure the car is unlocked, which I just unlocked it. So to raise the top, it's the bottom left button and the lock button. So locked. Windows are going up, the lights are on. And here comes the top. So the top is doing its thing. It's latched. And here come the windows. And that's it, it's done. Alright, I've got the module hooked up electrically. Everything is working. The top goes up and down like it's supposed to. So what I've got here, I've got to put my my module back in, or put it in, install it, and then put the door card in. So what we do here, it comes with a piece of Velcro, and this Velcro is going to go onto the back side of the module. This is the hook side of the hook and loop fabric. So the hook side is going to go onto here, and then the fuzzy side is going to go onto my door card. And once I figure out where that goes, I'll show you. So now that I've placed the piece of Velcro, and what the instructions say to do is take the back side of a screwdriver and really rub it in, push it down in there, because the back side of this door card is kind of fuzzy and it's not something that's going to hold the sticky tape very well. So by pushing it in there, it's going to help hold it. And then after pushing it in good, I can take my module, kind of slide it up into that black piece of plastic, and get it pinched there between the green thing and the black piece, and push it down into the Velcro, and it should stay. And now I'll take this this wire. I think I'm going to run the wire underneath this thing, and then I've got to put the door card back on and put everything back together, and that'll be it. I'll be done. Oh, and this, you know what, I don't know if I'm going to show this last little bit on the video, but it is now 6:35, so I think this took about 2.5 hours. But a good chunk of that was me running the video camera and, you know, doing it once and not doing it right, so doing it again to make another video. So I think if I wasn't doing the video, I could probably do this whole thing in maybe an hour and a half at the most. Something I almost missed. The kit comes with this. What this is double-sided tape. It's very, very thin double-sided tape, but it's used to hold this vapor barrier in place. When I first opened up my door card a year ago for doing other stuff, it was held in place with this black duct tape. And I just kind of assumed that was supposed to hold that was what was supposed to be there to hold the door card in place. But actually, I think this double-sided tape is what's supposed to hold it in place, because when I feel the back of this, it's actually a little bit sticky. It's not sticky enough to hold it in place anymore, but the instructions for this thing say just to peel back right here, and this is the only place you're going to need to use the tape. But there's plenty of tape in here. I'm going to put some tape all around the perimeter here and hold my vapor barrier in place better than it had been held.